Hello, BookTube. I've got a little mail for you today. Absolutely beautiful. Uh, Late spring day here in Boston. It's the middle of October. My country has about 20 days left, which feels odd to do videos or really to do anything. But nevertheless, we press on. It is short sleeve weather here. It's of course 95% humidity, but the temperature has dipped a little. The temperature is not boiling hot. It's still short sleeve weather. I imagine that will stay true, as it typically does in Boston, until around late November. And around late November, the daytime high temperature in Fahrenheit will probably go down into the 50s. This winter, like the last 4 winters, we will not have a killing frost. We will have barely any snow, maybe one day, and everybody will talk about it. And we won't have any real sustained cold. But it is pleasanter than the cauldron of summer, than that cheat wave that we had for a whole month this past summer, where the temperatures got to 89 degrees Fahrenheit, just shy of 90, for 30 days in a row. Always, again, with 95% humidity. The humidity has not gone below 95% here in Boston. We're in the tropics, after all, in a long time, since the tertiary period, I believe. But there's mail. I thought we'd go through it as I slowly claw my way back to hyperproductivity. We have a periodical. The Times Literary Supplement came to me on time. And right away I could tell from the cover, that of course is a young Auden on the cover there. And I could tell right away that they were going to write about him, because they put the headlining article on the cover. And I immediately guessed what it would be. There's only one major Auden book this year. And I was right. It's The Island by Nicholas Jenkins, which I've reviewed. So I wanted to see. The review is by Seamus Perry, and I wanted to see what it would be like. And it's really good. It's 1,000 times more erudite than mine, and also a lot longer. They gave him a nice long amount of space. There is a young Auden with a pipe, the last-ditch Maginot Line effort that tobacco addicts always take when they realize that they are at a crossroads. I am either going to control this addiction or it's going to control me. And one of the usual things that they do is to go right away to a pipe, because it seems more controlled. They don't stick with it, because your addiction does not want to be controlled. And every time you inject these chemicals into your body, one of the things they do is to increase the number of neuroreceptors that want you to inject those chemicals into your body. So literally every time you're doing it, you're increasing the depth of your hunger. And a pipe won't do that. A pipe is not going to satisfy that in the long run. But Auden tried. He knew he was hooked. The path road is either pipe, mitigation. I don't even keep an ashtray in my home. I only smoke when I drink. Special occasions. Every step is well known. You are going to get chain smoking cigarettes. That's what you're going to get to do. But every step is well known on that path. The other path is to stop. The other path is to stop. To stop indulging in this habit, which is going to take over your life if you don't. Most people don't. Most people go only one way in that path. But here we have the letters page. And in the letters page this time around, the author of a book writes in. His book got reviewed in the TLS. And remember, I've said many times, there is no good reason for an author to write in. If a reviewer has made a factual error, then have your publisher contact the editor of the paper and run a retraction. Most authors are such raving egomaniacs that they don't want to do that. Most of them feel like if you insult their book, you're insulting them. So they write in. But in this particular case, I almost can justify it, because the review was downright strange. It was a review by Emma Smith. She wrote a review of a new collected volume of Thomas Kidd, the works of Thomas Kidd. Which was done by Brian Vickers, the Shakespeare scholar, Brian Vickers. And she started off her review with a weird anecdote that had ultimately nothing to do with Brian Vickers. And then she went on to dismantle a book that, even from a distance, I haven't read the book, but even from a distance I could see, you learn these things when you write reviews for a living, that she was being completely unfair to the book. You could see that a mile away. And so in this particular case, I almost want to justify it. It's not justified. Brian Vickers should not have written in. In this case, she didn't make any factual errors, so you can't get your publisher to write in. but you could get a friend to do it. You don't do it yourself. If your book got a full-page review in the TLS, you are a lucky author. It's never any good. It's never a good look, as the woke skulls say, to complain about good fortune. But he starts off. I want to read you the opening paragraph. He writes a long letter. He tears her review apart. But his opening paragraph talks about the weird way she opened her own review. It was a bizarre decision by Emma Smith to begin her review of my edition of Thomas Kidd by recalling an attempted scam of which I was the target several years ago. She claims to have received an email from me back in 2012 that carried, quote, as usual, my London address and landline number. But the content of the email, requesting a loan of £1,800 to redeem my passport, showed that it could not have been from me. So why did she cite it? I had the same question. I had no idea why she brought it up, except, oh wait, this guy's name on this book reminds me of this thing that happened to me. It's not germane to the book, it's not germane to the review, and it's also, as we can see, not germane to the author. But the name's the same, so I'm just going to do it. And then he goes on to defend his extremely beloved practice of basically stylometricing everything. That we can quantitatively analyze how often an author uses certain phrases or certain words in conjunction with certain other words, so that we can tell who had a hand in what works, in what Shakespearean plays or whatnot. How much of it was written by so and so. I have the same arm's length, not dismissal, but deep caution for that kind of a quantitative approach as Emma Smith does. But I can see him being frustrated. That is a weird way to open a review. An editor should have caught that. That shouldn't land on the author's doorstep to talk about, to say, why did you mention any of this? What does this have to do with me or anything that I wrote? An editor should have caught that and said, well, that is interesting, but you have to cut it and come up with another beginning. But I have noticed in the year 2024, quite a few things that crop up here and there in the nooks and crannies of the TLS that should have been caught by an editor and weren't. I mean, there's always, in the letters page of the TLS, there's always a little block at the bottom about, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, a little block at the bottom noting that a review contained an error, a factual error. But the things that are cropping up that authors are commenting on in the letters page is a lot more wide scale and systematic than that. I don't know what it says about the editors of the TLS. But let's look at the mail and see what we can do. And I will try to remember the usual thing. We'll talk about these things. We'll handicap them professionally as well as talking about their interest. Okay. This first one is a work of history. Next year, yes, early January of next year. This is by Paul Strathern, who's a lot of you will know. I've reviewed Paul Strathern. And this is Dark Brilliance, The Age of Reason, from Descartes to Peter the Great. And there are a whole bunch of familiar faces on the cover there. A little bit annoying that the face that is not credited in the title is the greatest of them all. I don't have a sheet for this, so we'll just read the back. This is a sweeping history of the Age of Reason. During the 1600s, between the end of the Renaissance and the start of the Enlightenment, Europe lived through an era known as the Age of Reason. This was a revolutionary period that saw great advances in areas such as art, science, philosophy, political history, and economics. However, all this was accomplished against a backdrop of extreme political turbulence on a continental scale, in the form of internal conflicts and international wars. Indeed, the Age of Reason itself was born at the same time as the 30 Years' War, which would devastate Central Europe to an extent that would not be experienced again until World War I. This period also saw the development of European empires across the world, as well as a lucrative new transatlantic commerce that brought transformative riches to Western European society. However, there was a dark underside to this brilliant wealth. It depended on human slavery. By exploring all the key events and bringing to life some of the most influential characters of the era, including Caravaggio, Rembrandt, Newton, Descartes, Spinoza, Louis XIV, and Charles I, acclaimed historian Paul Strathern tells the vivid story of this paradoxical age. And all the blurbs on this are for his earlier book, The Other Renaissance, which I think I reviewed. So no early word on this thing yet. But that's fantastic. I will definitely take it. Great, an Age of Reason history for the beginning of next year. It'd be great if next year was full of history titles. That would be wonderful. And as in terms of handicapping the thing, you're close. We're in the middle of October. Everyone in the publishing world is going to be gone from their desks. This is the 15th of October when I'm filming this, so the 15th of December at the very latest, they'll all be gone. All your editors, if they're still going to the office, they certainly won't be doing any work. They'll be showing up and just playing solitaire or reading their email or whatnot. And they certainly won't be doing much until the holidays are over. And that is not even talking about the enormous political convulsions that could be happening at the same time. I'm just talking about the way things have always been. As opposed to, I'm not adding on the extra layer of what's going to happen in just 20 days in this country. So this is coming out in early January. So if you got this book now, you would want to pitch it to an editor right away and get them thinking about it for the new year. You'd want to do that as early as possible. Imagine that's going to be true with a lot of these things. Oh, great. Oh, I didn't know I was going to get a second copy of this thing. This must be a finished copy. Yes? Yeah, this is a finished copy of Simon Critchley's, it's still going to be paperback. Yeah, it's going to be an 1895 paper. Oh, it's New York Review of Books, Simon Critchley's Mysticism. This is a paperback copy of this. The author looks for meaning in one of the most extreme of spiritual traditions, mysticism. Spoiler, there is no meaning in it. Critchley begins with the famous mystics of yore, finding models for the good life in Julian of Norwich, who never bathed, and tortured people, Marjorie Kemp, Teresa Avila, and Marie of the Incarnation. Again, none of them ever bathed. None of them ever brushed their teeth. None of them ever willingly ate a vegetable. None of them ever cared about anybody. None of them ever innovated. None of them ever pushed their own boundaries. There is not the good life anywhere connected with any of them. But anyway, you live in the modern era. There's nothing to envy about these louse-infested primitives. Nothing at all. They weren't in possession of some old wisdom that we've lost, man. Anyway, it is possible to recreate their ecstatic experience, whether one believes in God or not. The author reintroduces mysticism not as something archaic, unattainable, or holy, but as a practical, achievable way of living better and getting happy. If this author does not portray mysticism as holy, I am the czar of all the Russias. One of the ways to releasement, are we calling it releasement? Okay, well, one of the ways to releasement or detachment is through art. In Annie Dillard's prose, T.S. Eliot's poetry, Nick Cave's songs, the author finds modern secular models of breaching the self and reaching the universal. There is no universal. Took us that long to get back to God. There is no universal. Anything. Except laws of nature, and you're not talking about them. Mysticism, he argues, is central to literature, pop and punk music, and everyday dialogue. Any moment when the mind surrenders itself to ecstasy. The author describes Eliot's poetry as an act of negation. No, it's typed words on a page. That which is not written is still felt. Here, poetry is experienced like music, or to paraphrase Eliot, we are the music for as long as the music lasts. With a conversational voice and a lucid structure, the author makes history, theory, and literary criticism remarkably alive, applicable, and accessible. Okay. All right. Needless to say, the author's bio starts off by mentioning that he is a philosopher, as if you didn't know. If you're already up to your shin bones in flapdoodle, you know that the author must be a philosopher. And this is the author photo that comes with the pub sheet. So, Simon Critchley has seen better days, I guess. Okay. Well, I have the advanced copy of this, but I will definitely give this a read. Did we have a date for this? I thought this was a November release. Is that right? Oh, no, October 29th. All right, close enough. So this is right at the end of the month. I haven't read it yet. So let's see here. And, of course, obviously, since this is the 15th, and that is the 29th, there is no possibility of pitching it. Unless you pitch to an enterprising underdog creation, something that doesn't have a long pipeline of editors and sub-editors and line setters and whatnot. Open Letters Review, for instance. Oh, look at this. Oh, my. Oh, that's right. I did request this. Oh, boy. Okay, this is coming out as $30 hardcover, a beautiful naked hardcover. I don't have a sheet on this. I don't have any copy on it either, but it really needs none. This is the publisher, Soho Crime, decided to come out with a commemorative hardcover, naked hardcover edition of Maisie Dobbs, the very first of the Maisie Dobbs adventures by Jacqueline Winspear. Just a lovely thing here with no text, but page after page after page of blurbs. Just everybody who has ever praised this series, which everybody did. I wonder if I'm in here. I'm not supposed to look for my own blurbs, but I wonder if I am in here. Oh, there I am. There I am again. Okay, all right. Well, I've written about a few Maisie Dobbs books for a few venues. So this is the very first one. How wonderful that they brought this out. The Maisie Dobbs books are over now. So how wonderful that this is out. That's worth a write-up, I think. Probably not for Open Letters Review, but I have revived my literary blog, Steve Reads. This is perfect for that. Let's see here. Although, again, from the horse racing point of view, you're never going to get an editor to agree. They're going to think, oh, isn't this lovely? That's wonderful. Maybe you can tuck it in a gift guide for the holidays, a roundup of 30 books. I'll give you 2 books in that roundup. If you want to waste one on this, go right ahead. But I've got 10 other authors to deal with, and I'm certainly not going to give space in my section to someone writing up a 20-year-old book. I don't care how pretty the reprint is. That you're up against a wall there. Let's see here. What is this next one? Oh, very good. Okay. All right, this is not staying with me. This is the trade paperback of something we've seen on this channel before. This is James Holland, and this is his book, The Battle for Italy, 1943. This is The Savage Storm. And this paperback comes out in early November, so I'll be sending this off. In which he narrates and reframes the controversial first months of the Italian campaign and sets a new standard for the chronicling of war. Great. We saw this last year when it came out originally, and now it's out in a very nice, very attractive trade paperback. Do we have a price for the trade paperback? Oh, wait, the price will be on the thing, won't it? It's a trade paperback. It's going to go like this into stores. $22. It's $22. I'm going to do my best to get David Murphy to write that up. Publishers are always extremely happy when they get a paperback write-up. I mean, it's the last section of a book's life. They don't want it just to be ignored, especially since it's my contention that most of the people who want this thing and who wanted it last year said, I'll wait for the paperback. Not because they weren't eager to read it, but because of the price. Hardcovers are eye-wateringly expensive. $22 for a paperback is pretty expensive, too. So I've always thought that book review journals should review more paperbacks. A lot of them don't. The big ones will say, we don't want to do that because we probably already wrote about it, probably already weighed in on it. But if you know you didn't, if you know that it's the first time your journal is writing about a thing, why not? And I would say for an online journal like Open Letters Review, all I would require is that the two reviews be written by 2 different people. So I'm going to encourage David to review this, paperback and all. And then we have a box. It's satisfyingly heavy. So it could be a number of books. Oh God, it's triple taped. Oh my God. Sorry about the boarding house reach. It's triple taped. So how about them socks? It weighs a ton. It won't rip open. I guess ordinarily my rule with books is that the more effort it takes to get into them, the less worthwhile is the contents. But this is from W.W. Norton, my beloved W.W. Norton. So I have to think that's not true. So let's see what's in here. God, it still doesn't want to open. Okay, I'm sorry about this. I'll just manhandle it. I'll just tear it literally to shreds. Oh, wait a minute. This isn't Norton. This is Harvard. Did they just have a box lying around? The box says Norton. Oh, okay. Well, we end on a very, very strong note, but only for me. Oh my, only for me. But still, these are my books after all. We end with Harvard's Itati Library. Harvard, for a long time, for over a century, has done the Loeb Classical Library. Little green and red hardcovers, really nice little hand-sized hardcovers that have the original Greek and the original Latin on one side and an English language translation on the other. It's ideal for students, but they're also really good for just ordinary readers. They're very convenient, and the Brattle had a gigantic library of them just a month ago. I think somebody came in and bought them all. There was a huge number of them, my God, enough to block a window at the Book Barn in Niantic, Connecticut. And again, someone will come in, see that, and buy them all. You won't get them all in that. Those kinds of ad hoc things are never complete, but you get a lot of them. But Harvard also does the Itati Library, which is as great as the Loebs are, only more valuable, intensely more valuable. Because the Loebs, there are examples here and there where an author has not achieved any kind of popular renown, and so the Loeb edition is the only one in English, or one of the only ones. But 95% of them are not like that. 95%, you can find Cicero, you can find Caesar, you can find Homer elsewhere than the Loeb Classical Library edition, whereas the Itati Library is dedicated not to the literature of the classical world, but to the literature of the Renaissance. A huge amount of which has not been readily available to English language readers. A huge amount of it was familiar to all of its own readers. They were eager for books, but they're totally not familiar. You think of the Renaissance now, you think of The Prince by Machiavelli, and that's almost pretty much it. And I got the 3 latest Itati volumes. Fantastic. The first 2 are by the same author, Leon Battista Alberti, who's known for one particular book, and this is not that. They decided to do his dinner pieces, volume 1 and volume 2. The Itatis have these powder blue covers here. These are translated by David Marsh, and I guarantee you this is a new translation. So you will get Alberti's original Latin on one side, and an English language translation on the other. I will read the dust jacket, but I can almost guarantee that this is the first full English translation of this work. Even though Alberti he's not a household word, but he's better known than most of the people in the Itati Library. There have been paperback editions of his signature work. But let's see here. So he lived from 1404 to 1472 and was among the most famous figures in the Italian Renaissance. And this is a collection of stories meant to be read while dining and drinking. The dinner pieces are one of Alberti's most innovative and experimental works, mixing literary genres and styles of prose composition adopted from both the Greek and Latin models. They cover a wide range of topics, from moral philosophy, politics and religion, to the arts, money-making, love and friendship, and the study of the humanities. The dinner pieces offer satiric commentary on the cultural illusions and moral myths of the author's day. They cut through the absurdity of human existence with the blade of wit and laughter, and constitute an important monument in the history of comic writing. So what are we told about this English translation is based on the authoritative Latin text by the editor, Roberto Cardini. And is accompanied by ample notes. The notes are often wonderful too, but I guess I want to know what the last readily accessible translation of this was. I don't remember there being one. I'm racking my brains now to think of like a paperback of this in the 60s or something like that. Oh, you get a long introduction to the work, a long introduction to Alberti himself. No translator's note that I can spot. Hey, baby, you want me to get those out of your way? Oh, no, you don't? You're all set? No translator's note that I can see. But still, fantastic. I mean, this is the whole thing. That's fantastic. And then the other volume, I believe this will be unique to Itati, and also I'd be willing to bet that all of these are new translations. This is an anthology volume, sort of. It's on leaders and tyrants with a bunch of different writers. There's Bracciolini, who Itati has done before, and I've written about him. There's Guarino of Verona and Pietro del Monte on leaders and tyrants, a thicker book. So what have we got here? Bracciolini was a prominent scholar official of the early Renaissance and a leading representative of Florentine humanism. He was employed as a secretary to 7 popes and ended his career as Chancellor of the Republic of Florence. This book contains texts, the majority by him, relating to a controversy on the relative merits of the lives and deeds of Scipio Africanus and Julius Caesar. The debate addressed the nature of tyranny and military glory, as well as the qualities necessary for republican leaders, such as stoic virtue. They just won a whole bunch of dude bro sales. Lawfulness and good citizenship. The author, or Bracciolini, that is, Poggio, the editors rightfully refer to him as Poggio. His primary opponent was the educator Guarino of Verona, a humanist in the service of the Duke of Ferrara. The psychology of power, the demands placed on public servants, and the dividing line between leadership and tyranny are as topical today as they were in Poggio's own time. This volume contains a fresh edition of the Latin text and the first complete translation of the controversy into English. So we're getting the two of them writing from their different standpoints. And I was right. I'd be willing to bet that Guarino of Verona has never had an English translation before. Bracciolini, maybe. I'll have to research because I'm going to write about both of these. I wonder if we have a note on the text for this one. That's kind of standard in a work of translation, but we didn't have one with the Alberti. Sorry, I want to dig into these things right away. I'm trying not to because I'm on camera, but this is just candy to me. This is absolutely candy to me. I'm going to have to resist the urge to reread The Savage Storm if I'm going to send it to David. But I'm not going to resist the urge for these things at all. Oh my God, look at how good this is. Oh my God, no effort has been spared at all. Huge index, huge bibliography, huge notes at the beginning, the middle, and the end. Did we maybe put a note on translation at the back? No, maybe not. No. All right, well, I'll be reading it anyway, so I'll find out. Fantastic. Oh, my God. Right back to the Italian Renaissance. I wonder if I have any English Alberti here. I had the paperback. I actually taught it from it for a whole semester. I wonder if I still have that. Probably not. It's probably blown apart. But it doesn't matter. These are worth having. They're worth keeping. I don't mean to toot my own horn here. The folks at Harvard, I don't know why Harvard sent me these in a W.W. Norton box. But the folks at Harvard, I'm pretty sure, know that I have written more reviews of these things than anybody. I'll try to remember to find some of them down below and link them. But you can just go searching for Steve Donahue, Itati, I, and then T-A-T-T-I. I'm pretty sure that they keep track of those sorts of things. Of course, I do it out of love. Something like this is never going to get a blurb. Well, obviously, these things are not reprinted in paperback. They're just the way they are. So I do it out of love, but I love it. I love writing about these people. So there you go. We have a blast of the Italian Renaissance. We have The Savage Storm in paperback. We have Maisie Dobbs by Jacqueline Winspear, reprinted in a hardcover. We have Mysticism by Simon Critchley in this finished New York Review of Books paperback. And we have The Dark Brilliance about the Age of Reason. Any of you of a certain vintage will remember the Will Durant volume called The Age of Reason. It was really, really good. I'm wondering if the appearance of this book in my mailbox will mean that a copy of The Age of Reason will crop up in the Brattle sale lot. And the odd thing is I'll never know because it'll come and it'll go. I'm not going to the Brattle sale lot anytime soon. But somebody else will get it. So anyway, that is our mail for today. A very good batch of mail. I will be, I'm not 100% sure. I know that I put Mysticism on the top there by its date, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be clearing room in tonight's reading for both Maisie Dobbs and Bracciolini. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be doing that. We'll see. I have a lot of other stuff to read. But anyway, I'm going to wrap this up for now. Hopefully I'll be back with videos tomorrow. I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.